Have you ever felt like you have to put up walls to guard yourself against the world's skepticism and distrust, and especially your own skepticism and distrust? Does the thought of trusting people or society feel like you're navigating a minefield, just trying to make connections, but instead you isolate yourself because people are just out for themselves? Well, are you ready to explore how you can safely put down your guard and build meaningful connections so that you can live the life that you desire? Hello, Sophisticates. I'm Davina Dandridge, here to guide you on the maze of distrust and skepticism that many people face in today's society. In this video, we'll uncover pathways to trust and understanding, fostering a world of deeper connections for more fulfilling life. More fulfilling life, and a life that you desire. Not what anyone else wants, but just about what you desire. And we can do that by developing emotional intelligence and sophisticated empowerment. The first thing we need to do is to understand the root cause of your distrust and your constant skepticism. Because uncovering the causes does a lot to really just minimize that feeling in the future. We're going to dive into the origins of your skepticism. Where did your skepticism come from? Did it come from your past betrayals or hurt? Or does it come from something that society has placed on you, or you think that society has placed on you? All of the things that you surround yourself with makes up your world view. And, in today's society, we all are guilty of paying close attention to social media or, what other people are doing. All of those things influence how we think. And not just about how we think about ourselves, but how we think about the world around us, how we think about other people that we have to deal with because we do live in this world, right? So the point is to develop a more self-awareness or develop more critical thinking to help us navigate through this inundation of information and ideas. So the first thing, though, to get to the root cause is to reflect on your own personal history. When you're triggered or when you're skeptical or distrust someone, why is it that you do that? What you can do is look back at the past, because the past is an indicator of how we got to the point where we are right now. Everything that you've thought in the past influenced an action that you took to get you to where you are right now. So if you're constantly distrusting people, or if your life is filled with skepticism, we need to identify the key moments that contributed to your feelings of distrust. What happened? You need to take time to contemplate, sit and think about why you distrust certain people or certain institutions or certain ideas, and then acknowledge their impact on you. Yeah, it does impact you. So the first step to clearing up anything is to definitely identify it. How are these feelings triggered? What is your response to these emotional triggers? Like, what do you do? Do you curse? Do you just tell somebody that they're stupid, or you say that's a stupid idea, or you do nothing? Or, what is it that you do when you have these mistrustful feelings? And then start to devise a plan to manage those emotions. Okay. And the way that you do that is by creating boundaries and using vulnerability. They are a means to overcome the distrust and skepticism that you feel. You say, well, how can boundaries and vulnerability help me with my distrust? Because once you've identified the root cause, then you can set up parameters to manage them. And let me tell you, the boundaries that you set up, they're not to manage other people, they are to manage you. So if there is an area in your life where you've let people have input and their input didn't serve you well, then you need to set up a boundary around that. But most of all, around what you intake, around what you view on social media, what you view on television. All of that has an impact on how you trust people or distrust people. And then you need to set up vulnerability. And I mean, vulnerability can be tough, especially when you've had to do a lot of things or overcome a lot of things, or you've had that hurt that we talked about earlier. It's hard to let your guard down and let somebody else in with the chance that you might get hurt again. But let me tell you, that's what vulnerability is all about. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, to open up and trust something or someone in order to get to the next level. And let me tell you, you can't just be vulnerable to everybody in the same way at the same time. No, vulnerability has levels, and it's important for you to do it incrementally. So let's talk about ways that we can open you up to vulnerability and to set up boundaries. And we're talking about focusing on you, not on other people, not on the world, not what somebody's doing over here, not what somebody's doing on social media. Yeah, we get all that information, but in the grand scheme of things, as far as your emotions are concerned, they don't matter. What matters is you. I like Brené Brown. And Brené Brown wisely states trust is built on very small moments, reminding us of the gradual nature of building trust. Small moments, not these big grandiose things that happen or that we anticipate or that we want to happen in our lives. You know, sometimes that does come with a bit of skepticism. If something is too big or too good to be true, yeah, I get that. But in the core of who you are, just small, small steps of recognizing or living in small moments can help you get to getting rid of some of that skepticism and moving you over to trust. So, as we move through life, in every connection we make with other people, we must learn to find trust. And you can develop trust in people so that we can create an emotionally healthy environment. We must also practice being trustworthy. Sometimes people don't recognize when they are presenting themselves as less than trustworthy because of the words or the actions that they use to protect themselves. God is who we must trust first in order for us to be able to operate in wisdom. And we need wisdom to navigate all of the influences, the different theories, the different ideologies and opinions that we're inundated with on a daily basis, because they do impact our emotions and they impact our thinking, and sometimes in a negative manner that develops that fear. You know, my pastor always says that you must protect your eye gate and your ear gate. And it's also important to guard your words. So, what we take in on social media, on news, and conversations with other people who have this negative way of thinking or a skeptical way of thinking, it does impact you. But you're in control. You're in control of what you intake. You're in control of what you consume. And that's what I call it, consuming. So, guard your eyes. I don't watch the news anymore. And it has done me so much better. I sleep better. And I have reserved how I participate in social media. Like, you know, I can't be a hypocrite and say I don't like social media and I use social media. I mean, we're on social media right now. What I'm saying is I use it on my terms, the things that I want to learn from, the things that I believe are based in truth, the things that I believe can work for me, the things that I'm interested in, the things that I find interesting and beautiful. Those are the things, not just the random that wants to come through on the feed. No, ma'am, I do not participate in that. You and I both have the ability to manage what we consume. But getting back to God, because God's words are so important to how we navigate our life, the success we have in our life, and how we manage our future selves. In Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I say that every day. I say that every day because on my own, look, I don't know what's going on. I have my own perception. And this scripture encourages us to place our trust in God and in his divine guidance. And he helps us to navigate our skepticism with faith and wisdom. So that's point number one. Point number two is that there is impact of skepticism in our relationships, and we have to navigate that emotional landscape as well. Skepticism can act as a barrier to forming genuine connections. It leads to isolation and missed opportunities for growth. If you have difficulty developing or keeping personal relationships, it may be because you have put up walls or you've created unreasonable expectations of other people. I've had a client who was in a whole bunch of relationships that didn't serve her. And I mean, all throughout her life, really, she's never made a personal connection with a person that she wanted to be in a relationship that was serious or that lasted. So now, the issue that the person had with emotions is that she had not really addressed the root cause of why she had this skepticism about relationships, not just her own relationships, but other people's relationships. And she had failed within her life to develop a meaningful personal relationship, the kind that she talks about that she wants. But what I recognize in how she tells me about, what she is going through and the people that she's dealing with is that she has unreasonable expectations of who they are and who she is to them. We become skeptical or can become skeptical because things don't turn out the way that we want them. But what we have to recognize is that we are only in charge of ourselves. We can only control what we can do. So having an unreasonable expectation and being let down over and over and over again can cause distrust. And especially in personal relationships, if all you've gotten is the short end of the stick, or you've been second fiddle, or you got someone seconds, then yeah, you're going to distrust and you're not going to trust and you're going to be skeptical of people who have thriving relationships. But there's a way that you can overcome that. And that's by practicing small acts of trust in your daily interactions. And you can start with something small, low risk situations to gradually build your confidence in other people. And you need to do that. So for my client who, has problems in developing or maintaining personal relationships, my first word to her was to just be by yourself for a minute. Don't seek relationships. Work on you. Find out why you have these feelings. There has to be something that triggered this type of emotion in you. And you are the only one who knows what it is, or the only one who can find out what it is. But the other thing that she can do, and that I advised her to do, was let go of some of the activities or some of the things in her life that only she can do and relinquish it incrementally to the person she wants to build trust with. It's vulnerability, right? So there is a potential for you to get hurt. There is a potential for you to lose something, but there is a lot of potential for gain too. Something small that's not going to be the end of the world if they don't do it right. But if they do, and if you let somebody in that small space, it'll embolden you to let people in bigger and bigger ways. Research shows that people with higher levels of trust report better well-being and lower levels of stress. When you have someone that you can trust around you and in your environment, you feel a lot better. I think it is advantageous for everyone to want that trust. So isolationism allows you to just keep with this bad mindset and not embrace other people's ideas or viewpoints that could help you get to the next level. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "The only way to have a friend is to be one." And what this does, it highlights the reciprocal value of trust. You have to be trustworthy in order to get trust. You have to be kind in order to receive kindness. You have to say kind words in order to get words said back to you kindly. So if you're skeptical and you distrust most people, you're going to build up walls. And some of that comes with characteristics like a bad attitude or getting angry or just not doing what you said you were going to do as a shield. You've done this for so long now, you don't even recognize that you're doing this. And that's where contemplation comes into play, because you can see who you are in these relationships with other people. I mean, you might not be the person that you think you are. And chances are that you aren't, until you sit down and take a look at your actions and how you behave and respond to some of these things that cause you distrust and skepticism. Then you don't know how you're showing up. You know, you only get out what you put in. You put in skepticism and distrust, you get out fear, anger, and isolation. Both research and Emerson's insight underline the importance of extending trust to foster meaningful relationships. You got to put yourself out there. You should start embracing the idea of building bridges. And that means you're going to have to extend yourself out to the idea of cultivating trust and openness. And that's going to come from you. Because if you think about what you've been getting when you're skeptical, imagine what could happen if you start trusting other people. So you have to create that environment. And that involves open communication, empathy, and a willingness to be vulnerable. You know, you have the right? And you can develop the capacity to create an environment that you want, an environment that will make you happy, an environment that will encompass all of the things that you desire. You can develop a peaceful environment full of the people and the things that you love. And you can do that starting right now. Things may not look right now how you see yourself in the future, but you can start building relationships so that you can start trusting people, because in your future, you'll be a whole different person. And I don't know if your plan for the future is to retire, or your plan is to start a business, or your plan is to, climb the ladder in your current company. All of that requires you to be different than you are right now. What it also requires is for you to take steps in order to become the person who can work in that environment, or become the person who can lead a group of people, or become the person who can retire and do whatever they want. The benefits of thinking about your future is going to benefit you in the future, but it's going to benefit you right now, because you have to start making those changes to become that person. And it starts with your emotions. So if you feel like you are never heard, or that people don't show up for you the way you show up for them, or you're always making sure you have to protect yourself that nobody's going to get over on you, then these feelings may be more about how you communicate than someone else's potential to harm you or to do you wrong. Because you have these feelings of distrust, then you make assumptions in conversations. And that can be a downfall, because when you make assumptions going into a conversation, you don't get the other person an opportunity to really share who they are, and you don't get an opportunity to see them. Because the whole time saying what it is coming from their heart, or showing you something that you did, you're already thinking about what you're going to tell them, or why are they doing this? I know they have an ulterior motive. This isn't real. That's because you distrust. So you have to first engage in active listening during conversations. That's the only way that you are going to build the trust that you need. Like I said, don't try to figure out what angle they're coming from, because you've assumed the wrong thing, or you've assumed how they see you. You have to come from a position that you are open. You can't stand there listening to them and be formulating your comeback, what you're going to say next. You have to show genuine interest and empathy, and you do that by listening. Listening creates a safe place for trust to flourish. Throughout my own journey I've learned that embracing vulnerability and empathy has been the key to overcoming any areas that I've had of skepticism. And it builds lasting connections. I have connections and relationships that I've developed because I was first vulnerable. There's levels to vulnerability. Start at the bottom level, but you have to build the bridges. Bridges don't just grow organically. You have to build the bridges, and you need to trust someone. This world can be a hard place doing it alone. You need to have people that you can build a community with, someone you can be vulnerable to, and someone who can trust and rely on you. It's reciprocal, right? Skepticism and distrust are negative emotions. You don't want more of that. But once you have a balance of emotional intelligence and critical thinking, you can afford to trust some people. And you can afford to trust them until they show you different, right? Romans 15:3 says, "Now the God of hope will fill you with all joy and peace in believing that you may abound in hope through the power of the Holy Spirit." So, what that means is that we're inspired to embrace hope and faith in our interactions, fostering an environment, right, full of trust so that we can thrive. You have control of your environment. Embracing trust in a world of skepticism is a journey of small but courageous steps. So, if you're seeking to build more authentic connections and navigate the complexities of trust, I encourage you to explore Brains and Baubles. Do what works for you on my website, www.davinadandridge.com, for deeper insights. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more empowering content. Together, we can create a tapestry of understanding and empathy in our lives and in this society. Until next time.